The pandemic and public schools headline the presidential campaign news tonight. Democrat Joe Biden hammered away at President Trump today, saying schools are facing a, quote, national emergency. In his hometown of Wilmington, Delaware, he called out Mr. Trump for failing to provide more aid.
This is an emergency, Mr. President. This is an emergency. And Donald Trump and his FEMA should treat it as one. Mr. President, where are you? Where are you? Why aren't you working on this? We need emergency support funding for our schools, and we need it now.
Also today, the Biden campaign and the Democratic National Committee reported raising a record haul of $364 million in August. Meanwhile, President Trump traveled to Wilmington, North Carolina, marking the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II. He spoke at the Battleship North Carolina, now a floating museum and memorial. There is word that a coronavirus vaccine could be ready by late October or early November for healthcare workers and high-risk groups. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention confirmed today that it has notified public health officials in all 50 states and 5 major cities. The pandemic has so far claimed 185,000 lives nationwide. Germany says that it has confirmed that Russian dissident Alexei Navalny was indeed poisoned. Navalny became violently ill and fell into a coma last month in Siberia and is now in a hospital in Berlin. Germany's Prime Minister Angela Merkel announced today that he's tested positive for Novichok. It's a Soviet-era nerve agent.
Alexei Navalny ist Opfer eines Verbrechens.
Alexei Navalny is the victim of a crime. He was meant to be silenced, and I condemn this in the sharpest possible manner in the name of the entire German government. We expect the Russian government to explain itself for this incident.
The same nerve agent was used on a former Russian spy and his daughter in Britain in 2018. Moscow said today that it's waiting to see the official findings. The United States has imposed new sanctions on the International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor and a top aide. It is retaliation for their investigations of alleged American war crimes in Afghanistan. The penalties include a freeze on the court officials' assets. They were already under a U.S. travel ban. 14 people went on trial in France today accused of helping plan attacks on a satirical newspaper and a kosher supermarket in 2015. The Islamist raids killed 17 people. All 3 gunmen died as well. The newspaper, Charlie Hebdo, had published cartoons mocking the Prophet Muhammad. Lawyers representing the paper said today that the trial is about defending freedom against terror.
That's what Charlie Hebdo is about. The refusal to give up freedom of expression, including blasphemy, criticizing ideologies, dogmas, religions, because if we give up, we are not anymore in a country with freedom of expression. We would be in a country of fear, with a dark future.
Most of the defendants say they did not understand the kind of crime they were helping to coordinate. Back in this country, 2 prominent Democratic incumbents have been renominated in Massachusetts. On Tuesday, Senator Ed Markey held off a challenge from fellow Democrat Representative Joe Kennedy III. Kennedy is the first of his famous family to lose an election in the Bay State. And Representative Richard Neal, the chair of the powerful House Ways and Means Committee, defeated his progressive challenger, Alex Morse. Mississippi is one step closer to getting a new state flag. The old flag, featuring a Confederate emblem, was retired 2 months ago. Today, a state commission recommended a new design featuring a magnolia. Voters will decide whether to accept it in November. The Congressional Budget Office is projecting a record federal budget deficit of $3.3 trillion for this fiscal year. That is 3 times the red ink of 2019, and it's driven by pandemic losses and relief costs. But on Wall Street, stocks rallied again, partly on hopes for a COVID vaccine. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained nearly 455 points to close at 29,100. The Nasdaq rose 116 points, and the S&P 500 added 54, hitting records for both. Still to come on the NewsHour, the Trump administration bans evictions until the end of the year, but questions remain about rent payments. COVID infections spike in Iowa, prompting the White House to urge the governor to impose restrictions. We break down how the electoral map has changed since 2016 as the race for the White House intensifies, plus much more.
This is the PBS NewsHour from WETA Studios in Washington and in the West from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University.